Today we're going to talk about the George Floyd incident. If you don't know what happened, George Floyd was the victim of a third-degree murder via a cop who pinned him to the ground, had his knee on the back of his neck, and ended up choking him. It's considered manslaughter because it seems to be, this is based off of what manslaughter is. I'm not defending the guy who did it. He had the knee on the back of his neck, which is supposed to hold down the person so they don't resist arrest. But in doing so, he ended up killing him by choking him out with his knee. Negligence on the part of the cop who committed the crime and the cops who were there as well. So people are saying that all the cops should be punished for it, not just the cop who committed the murder. Fair enough. Obviously, if you can't tell, I am not okay at all with what happened with George Floyd, right? I'm not okay with that at all. I am also not okay with the riots that are happening. I understand that there's outrage and you're supposed to try to, protest. That's fair. Protesting, marching, social media, videos, etc. That's fair. Marching, I think, would be really effective if we got a bunch of people together, black and white, all different races coming together about this issue. Would be cool. But we have riots happening instead, understandably so, because it's been almost 70 years since, or from when the civil rights movement started to modern day. So I understand why some of this, the rioting is happening. The issue with it is that it's a slippery slope, because now you've got people who are committing crimes for the sake of committing crimes. You have people in there who are trying to portray the Black Lives Matter movement as being a bunch of angry teenagers or adults, committing vandalism, versus people who actually care about the issues, right? I'm not a part of any of those movements, okay? I am just myself with my opinion. I don't like to be associated with a specific group, right? I like the idea of just being me with my opinion. The only time it's okay for me to be in a certain group is when I'm voting, right? Because then I have to Democrat or Republican, right? You know what I mean? So in that case, if I have to, then yeah. But sometimes I just prefer to just be me. So while I disagree with the riots, I understand why they're happening. I hope that's clear, okay? I don't think when we're talking about this issue, I don't think it's a good idea to go through people's platforms or who they are. Here's what I'm trying to say. Anybody should be able to talk about this if they're informed on the subject matter. I'm not fully informed, so I'm only giving a brief opinion on it. I'm not trying to give a strong opinion or anything like that. I'm just saying, based off of what I see now, this is my thought, okay? I don't think just because someone has privilege, money, is a certain race, that they shouldn't be allowed to talk about this. I don't think that's fair, right? I don't think just because someone's black either, that they should have to talk about this if they have a platform. I think that's kind of ridiculous too. Because sometimes you don't want to talk about certain things because you don't really know. And yeah, you could research it, but sometimes it's best not to talk about it because maybe that's not what your page is for, right? Maybe that's not what you normally talk about. Maybe you try to bring happiness instead of talking about serious issues and that spark anger, right? So maybe that's why some people wouldn't talk about it. I do agree that this is more so a human, it is a human rights issue and a race issue, but it's more so a everybody versus racism issue, right? And I think we have to come together instead of trying to push people apart and saying that they can't talk about it. I think it's better to allow other voices to be heard and be like, hey man, the way you said that, it sounds like blah, blah, blah. Perhaps you should go like this. Or just try to talk. Don't try to shut people out. Try to have these conversations, because it makes the issue seem more important versus it just seeming like a bunch of people just being angry. It's better to try to engage, try to engage with effective rhetoric, as in trying to say, this is my point, this is why I think this, versus you can't talk about this because you're this. It's kind of dumb. Not everybody does that, but some people are doing that, right? I think that's pretty much it. If anything is unclear, feel free, comment down below if you want to understand what I'm trying to say, because apparently sometimes when I talk, usually those people who don't normally watch my channel that usually see these kind of videos, sometimes when I talk, I'm not very, I guess I'm not rhetorically effective sometimes, I think is the right way to go about it. But that's all I'm going to say on this. Sorry if, I know when I talk, I slur words together a lot, so it's kind of hard to understand me, especially if you don't speak English. I apologize for that. Conclusion, though. disagree with what happened with George Floyd. I think the better way to protest is with marches, rallies, TED Talks, videos, any way you can without violence. I think non-violent ways is the better way to go about it because of the effect that it can have generally when you do riots and stuff like that. And last but not least, I think it's better to allow people to participate in the conversation versus trying to gatekeep the conversation because of someone's race or privilege. Is that cool? Hopefully that's okay. If you don't understand it, I can try to explain it to people in the comments, but that's all I'm going to say about it. I'm going to go be happy now.